Thanks for tuning in to the Just Go Play podcast, where we look to develop and promote a positive youth sports experience. As always, we are available for speaking and private engagements and can be reached at info@justgoplay.ca. You can also catch full video versions of our podcast on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to visit us at justgoplay.ca. Enjoy the episode. Hi, everyone. Coach D here, Daryl Devonish. Welcome to the Just Go Play podcast. We got a great show for you today. I am excited to introduce you guys to Alex Knesaurek. I'm here also with my co-host, Taryn Lipschitz. Listen, it's been a little while. We took a little break, but I'm excited to be back, and we're starting off this year's show with a bang. Alex, how are you, buddy?
I'm good. Enjoying the pandemic life. How are you doing?
Thanks for being here, buddy. We're going to drill you with lots of questions today. We usually have, coaches, professors, like guys, experts in their field. Today, we never talk to the kids. It's their sport. It's youth sports. We're looking for quality experiences. So we wanted today to get you to share some of your experiences with the audience, and good, bad, ugly. So tell us a little bit about you and what you're doing right now.
Well, I was born in Fredricton, New Brunswick.
Wow.
Freddie Beach. Lived there till I was 5. Then moved to Australia. Lived in Melbourne, Australia for 7 years. There I played 7 sports at once. I was in tennis, soccer, Australian football, rugby, swimming. If there's a sport, I probably played it. Then I moved back to Toronto in 2011, then picked up soccer again. I played for Moordale for 3 years. I played for North Toronto for 5 years, which I was the captain. And then for the last 4 years before I went to university, we played for Markham. Markham, we were ranked top 5 in Canada for 3 years in a row.
Wow.
And now I'm currently at Dalhousie. Going into my 3rd year. Unfortunately, the season got canceled this year through the pandemic. So no season, so that's why I'm still at home. But going back in January for off season.
Awesome. And you are humble. I just got to tell the people, because I'm going to be honest, I work with Alex. I've worked with him over the last 3 years, doing some of his strength conditioning. One of the most humble kids you'll ever meet. When I say that, he's humble and he's so coachable, it's unbelievable. So I'm not surprised you've moved along in this sport. And I like to hear, I'm glad to hear too, that you did sports sampling when you were a kid.
Yeah.
Like, you did everything.
Yeah.
And we're going to ask you about that Australian experience in a sec. T, you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think, I'm sure, Alex, when you meet people and you tell them your history, they're probably like, where's your accent?
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah, no, I have the same thing as a kid. But it's amazing, though. What I'd love to understand, too, is, Australia, the sports system there is very different to here in Canada. Can you give a lot of our listeners insight into what some of those differences are in the systems?
Yeah, so I think the biggest difference is it's more of like we think North American sports is a religion. We think we're crazy. Like, fans are crazy. We support our teams. There, it's another level. So they have this thing called Australian rules football, which is basically the equivalent of NFL, but to another league. There's about 20 teams in the league, and 12 of them are from Melbourne. You would have a game on the same afternoon. You'll have 50,000 people in one stadium and 100,000 people in another stadium, 2 completely different crowds supporting 4 different teams. So everybody in the country follows a sport, and they are crazy about it. Like, they will follow it till the ends of the earth. And what's cool about Australia is that they made it a family experience when you go to the games. If you try to go to a Leafs game, it's $300-$400 for a ticket. Raptor games are crazy prices. You go to an Australian football game, you're going in for $15, $20, and you're going with your whole family, making an experience. You're eating your meat pies, you're watching the game. And it's a real great experience is the biggest difference, I think.
What sports again did you play? Like, what was your main sport over there? You said you played a bunch, but what sport were like that the one that you were your main one over there in Australia?
So the one I took the most competitively and serious was Australian football. On my last year while I was there, I actually quit every sport except for tennis to focus on Australian rules football. We were one of the best teams in the country at that point, and I was hoping to take it further. And then obviously, the family moved back to Toronto, and then that's when I picked up soccer again. So when I moved back to Toronto, I hadn't played soccer in 4 years.
Amazing. And and for those that don't know, I grew up with your dad, with
Yeah.
Alex's dad, and he's a big hockey guy. So it must have been weird growing up with a hockey dad and not playing hockey.
Yep.
When you came back to Toronto, was there pressure to play hockey?
Not at all. Ended up playing hockey only like house league and select just because I wanted to. I've been surrounded by it my entire life. My dad coached the national team in Australia. He coached another big team there called the Melbourne Ice, and I've been surrounded by it my whole life. He played, so I always wanted to experience that for myself because he always talked about it. You guys always talked about it, and I really enjoyed it. But at the end of the day, when I started playing more competitively with soccer and soccer started to become 6, 7, sometimes 2 times a day, we had to make a decision if I was going to continue with this soccer journey, which I think I could go further in, or continue with this hockey journey where I didn't really see kind of an end goal. So that's when I had to put down hockey and continue with soccer.
And Alex, I love hearing that because we've had your dad in the podcast and heard his story, which is really amazing. And it sounds like you've also grown up around, some very influential people in the sports space. So who are some of those influences? I don't know if it's your dad, Daryl, I'm sure there's some others. So who are some of those people that really influenced you enjoying and staying in the game and your progression through it?
Definitely my parents for sure. They always were very adamant to getting me into sport. They're very adamant on getting them into sports early, kind of keep them athletic and keep them out of trouble. And I really look at them, and especially my dad, with where he grew up and the struggles that he went through, and kind of anything they would do to support me in my journey through sports. A fantastic story about this is, I know Daryl knows this very well, but my parents travel like crazy. They're on a plane pretty much every week to somewhere all over the world. But when we moved back to Canada, I was in a winter final. We were playing this team a couple years older than us, and we were in the final. And my mom was in London, England. She took a red-eye flight and landed at 8 a.m. My game was at 9 a.m. And she went right from the airport with suitcases in tow and watched the whole game. She did end up falling asleep during the game, but it was the thought that she made it there, which was really memorable for me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's true, like, parent dedication. I will
Oh,
be
yeah.
there to watch you play. And it's so amazing because your parents really like live and breathe staying active, being in sports, and not just, your dad's a hockey guy. He never pushed you in hockey. So it's nice to know that they also pushed you to find a sport that you really related to and enjoyed. Did you also have any coaches that sort of stood out for you along the way that were influential in your, progression through soccer?
Absolutely. When I moved back from Australia as a young kid, it's tough to move back and kind of see not having a lot of friends, not knowing a lot of people here. Like my closest friends were my dad's friends and their kids. I never really had any friends in Toronto because I never lived here before. So when I first moved back, Moordale was a bit of a rocky road. There was a lot of drama going on that Daryl knows about, with a lot of politics that I'm sure we'll get into later about youth sport. But when I moved to NT, I had a coach there named Paul Kumu, and he was amazing. Our team was like a family. We were really close together. He would come over to my house. He'd pick me up to go to practice. He's a great story. He was born in Uganda, moved out here when he was 16, lived with his uncle, and then he ended up getting a full soccer scholarship down in the States, played semi-pro, all on his own. And then he was a true inspiration of the true meaning of like hard work and dedication. And then when I eventually moved to Markham, I had a coach there named Richard Alexander, who truly propelled me to to go along with soccer to a higher degree. because he played at Syracuse. He had connections with the national team. And yeah, he truly taught me how to take my game to that next level.
I want to talk to you about Paul a little bit, because I used to coach Paul for a minute where he played on my football team. I was coaching at Senator O'Connor, and
Yeah.
man, was he a good athlete.
Oh yeah.
He didn't know anything about football when I met him. And the next thing I know, he's one of our best receivers. He could do anything. What was it about Paul that you connected with as well? Like, you know, because we're trying to talk about these quality coaching experiences between the coach and the athlete. What was it that you still remember? You still talk about this guy?
Yeah. He just really cared. He really truly cared. He wanted to make sure that he didn't necessarily care about wins and losses. He was more worried about A, having fun, and B, developing the player to the best of their ability. And he would go into extra lengths and things that he did not need to do to make sure that kids were able to get to practice, that we had the right gear, that we were eating healthy, we were working out effectively. Like, he would just do things above and beyond his coaching duties that just truly made me respect him as a true coach and a true influence.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And you touched on it. There's a lot of politics in youth sports.
Yeah.
Can you share with us some stuff that you went through with, you know, and I don't even want to say the club's name, but like with some of the clubs you went through, especially the younger, like just some of the things you saw and might have turned you off of soccer, turned you off of the coaching or system, but can you share some of that with us?
Yeah. So I've seen it for so long. It's not even, it's in all sports, but I would attest to that soccer is just as bad as hockey, because the benefit of hockey is that there's boards. So you can't talk to the kids. The kids can't hear you necessarily. With soccer, the stands are right. There is no barrier. You can touch a kid, you can talk to a kid, you can have interactions with the kid. And I've seen kids being best friends being torn apart under two different teams because parents can't get along, or parents running after the ref and threatening the ref because that was a foul on my kid, or parents and coaches getting into full-on brawls because they weren't playing their kid enough. And it's sad to see, because it truly hurts the kid more than anything else. It truly pushes the kid away from the sport, which is a great sport. And I truly think is one of the main drivers of why the European soccer is so far ahead compared to North America.
So you're saying that it sounds like it was the parents.
100% the parents.
Yeah, that thought their kid was something else, or they were too hard on their kid. You know, tried to buy his time on the field, as we like to say.
Yeah.
Or buy a team. So you saw this, and what were you thinking as a kid when you're watching all this? Like,
I was lucky enough to have parents that were not involved in that. Like, if you've ever gone to some of my games, my parents sit the furthest you will ever see a parent sit. They're by themselves over a fence onto the next parking lot, because they don't want to hear any of the drama that goes on. But watching this, you truly do feel bad for the kid, because you can see the kid just wants to go out and have fun. And you can see the kid is embarrassed, and you're seeing his dad or his mom or losing their mind over something that they can't control. And then the kids turn on other kids because their dad or their parents are belittling the coach. And it's never fun to see.
Right. And this is, you know, we've talked about this in a few of our past episodes. This is the stuff that's ruining some of the, definitely the experiences for kids, and kids that, you know, part of the reason kids are quitting sport by the age of 13, 14 years old. Now, for you personally, did you feel pressure? Like you said, you sound like you're playing soccer 4 to 6 times a week. Were you sold the dream, scholarship, pro, like, were you sold that dream too?
Yeah, I was told if I do X, Y, and Z, I can make it to the next level. Which I don't necessarily think is a bad thing, because I think it's always great for kids to have a dream and have a focus and have a goal to they want to achieve. But you do see with some kids that their parents have this goal for them that they don't necessarily want to achieve for themselves.
Right.
The parents are living through the kid. So the kid might just want to go home and play Xbox or play Fortnite or play Modern Warfare. But the dad wants the kid to go play.
Continue training.
You want continue training. Go get a D1 scholarship. Go play semi-pro in Europe. Do something. Because he could never do it.
Right. So you said it. The parents are living through the kids, and it doesn't become fun anymore. It becomes a job.
Yeah.
Did you get that from parents, coaching, outsiders talking to you, or is this just you just saw it? It was you saw it amongst the other parents and groups that you knew. Is that where you saw this?
Yeah, definitely like other parents of players on my team and players I was playing against. I would see it on the regular.
Did you ever have any coaches that would step in and say, hey parents, this is how we're going to actually run the season and this is how we're going to work together? Did any of the coaches in any of the leagues that you were in or teams that you played on do that? Or was it very much still and everywhere the coach versus parent kind of battle that you saw?
In every team except for the first team I played for, they had a meeting at the beginning of the year with the parents, talking about what they're going to do, the process, kind of exactly what you mentioned, kind of how they're going to work together, the structure, how they're going to train. But personally, I don't think that even helped. Everybody agreed to it.
Yeah,
They don't follow through. Everybody agrees to it at the beginning, and then once their kid doesn't play more than they think they should play, parents are in uproar. It's a war between the parents and the coaches again, and circles back to the issue.
Yeah, and it's we hear it often, and we know why kids drop out, and we know this experience. What do you think is one of the things that we could maybe do to make it a better experience for the kids, or is there a way that we could get the parents to either better be involved or better understand what's going on? Because you were in it and lived it, and you're very fortunate that your parents were like in the parking lot 2 streets over, letting you enjoy. What's something you think could change in the system?
The biggest thing that I saw was a great idea that I had when I played at Markham was that parents were not allowed to come to practice. They shut off the field. We played inside a bubble, no parents allowed. And they do that at TFC Academy too. No parents are allowed at any of the practices. So it truly is the team. There's no outside influence. There's no parents butting in and saying, my kid isn't playing the right position. My kid isn't on set pieces. My kid isn't doing X, Y, and Z. And it truly enabled the parents to show up to games, watch their kid, and have fun, rather than seeing them at practice and wanting to talk to the coach at the end. And that's where I feel like the biggest controversy and arguments are instilled.
So that the Markham team did that.
Markham team did that.
And it's interesting because you also saw the success the team had, and you wonder, how is this all related? And I think what's interesting too is now that you're playing at a university level, I know right now, season on pause.
Yeah.
But usually when kids go to university, the parents aren't there. So do you find that also translates to university, or what sort of experience is university soccer like?
Yeah, it was a big change because university, you're by yourself. You're not you can't rely on your parents to get you to practice or remind you that you have practice. But yeah, like when you're there, you're by yourself. It's you and the coach. If you have an issue, you can't talk to your parents that I'm not happy with my playing time, or I'm not happy with set pieces. It's up to you to go and bring that up with the coach and have a respectful conversation and come to an agreement. And it truly allows the child to grow and bring into real question things that they're unhappy about.
Awesome. Hey, you faced a bit of adversity a couple years ago, a few injuries and whatnot. Talk to us how you overcame that adversity, and what was your motivation to get back? Like a lot of people, if they had gone through those little adversities with their knees and whatnot, they would have called it quits.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that situation a little bit?
Yep. So as you know, for those of you who don't know, I unfortunately have had 2 knee surgeries in the past 3 years. First one was a bucket handle meniscal tear. I was out for 4 months. And then just last summer, I re-tore it, but I was only out for 2 months. So ever since I was young, just getting back into soccer from when I was 12, 13 years old, I always wanted to play D1. My goal was I want to go to the States. I want to go play D1 and have the D1 soccer experience. Ranked in Canada, we were going to showcases, getting interest. It was all going to plan. Unfortunately, in my grade 11 to 12 summer, between grade 11 and 12, I had this injury, which is unfortunately the most important summer because that's when schools can officially start talking to you, offer you scholarships and positions and stuff like that. And I missed the whole summer season. So I had been talking to other schools in D1, but those talks very quickly disappeared once they found out about my injury. But when I was able to start my rehab again, I truly wanted, I knew that was not going to be it for me. I wanted to come back stronger, faster, and better than I ever had because I knew I had more on the plate to show people that I could still play at that level. And I remember when I was in the recovery room after surgery, I had the realization that I probably won't be going to American Division I school. And it's obviously upsetting, but my mom was there with me and she goes, look, you can either A, sulk and say, man, I'm going to have a pity party, I'm not going to do it. Or you can work harder than anybody else, come back stronger, and be better than you were when you got hurt. And that's what I did. I've never worked harder in my life. And I think since that injury, I've never worked harder. I wish I had this drive and will when I was younger because I feel like I definitely could have gone further. But yeah, I truly didn't think my time was up, and I wanted to show people that doubted me that I still had the ability. And then I was lucky enough to get an opportunity at Dal, and then played my first season there. Got nominated for a couple rookie awards, a couple AUS rookie teams, and then last summer I had a partial tear, another surgery, but I only ended up missing half the season. And again, it was only my second year.
The same thing. I've never seen someone recover as fast as you did. Like that meant like I remember you telling me you were going to play, and I was like, I don't know if that's awesome. Like
Yeah. So then just again, I knew what it took, and this one was less severe. So working hard, showing people because my goal last year was to make an AUS team, and I didn't make it. And this year I wanted to make it. And obviously playing half a season, that kind of restricts you on making a team. So I knew just use this season as a way to build up my endurance, build up my strength, get better, get back to where I was. And hopefully next year I can make that all-star team.
Remarkable. Like you're definitely one of those quiet leaders. I've watched some of your games, and I'll date myself because I used to play your position. I used to, what do you call it, sweeper? What do you guys call it now?
Just center back.
Just center back. Yeah. Sweeper. People, you tell a kid I played sweeper, and he's like, what's that?
You got the broom.
You're one of those guys that you're not the most vocal guy in public, but on the field, your presence is felt, and you sort of run it like a conductor back there. I love watching you play. I've seen you a couple times. You lead by action. You lead. You direct traffic back there. Great to see you play, and that's what's lacking with it looks like you've got all these things through sport because I don't know if you're going to be that way in school somewhere or in your job, but these leadership qualities, these are the things that come from sport, and people don't realize it. Sport is just a vehicle for you
Absolutely.
to let all these things out. Now, that being said, all this stuff you went through, can you give us some thoughts now, going back now, on what would you tell someone playing soccer now? Good, bad, ugly. Like, what would you get them to focus on? Like, would you tell them just focus on fun? Would you focus, don't listen to your parents? What would you tell them?
I would say two things. First, I would it depends on the age, but if they're old enough to kind of understand where they want to take themselves with this game, I'd have them set out clear goals in which they want to achieve. Whether that be they just want to play for fun, they want to play college, Canadian university, American university, MLS, X, Y, and Z, pro, Europe, whatever they want to do. Make sure you set a clear and definitive goal. Then make sure you work hard. And I know everybody says that. I know coaches say you have to work hard. Everybody says that you have to work hard. But no one really knows what working hard means until you actually work hard. Everyone says they're working hard, but if you think you're working hard, there's someone else in Aurora or in Pickering that's working just as hard, if not harder. And that you truly have to think of that as a driving force to work harder than you ever have or ever will. And that goal will pay off. The hard work will pay off. One of the quotes that I forget who told me, but I live by is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. I think we T, do you know where's that quote come from? Did we use that sometime?
We just posted it a few weeks ago on Just Go Play, and that's why I'm like, I love that one. I saw it, I heard it, I was like, this is so true, because you can have natural talent, and if you're going to be lazy or not work, then it's just going to go to waste.
Yep.
And someone who may not have that natural talent, so it seems, can work really hard to build their ability and build their, and I think it's passion and integrity also really is part of that. And I think what's so interesting about what you just said is these advice that you would give kids, like younger players, isn't just about soccer. It's anything in life. If you want to achieve anything, set those goals, give yourself milestones, know someone's working harder, get up every day with something, something that's driving you. So I think that's really, really important. And I think that's great.
Awesome. I also want to talk to you about mentally how not playing soccer right now and being in this pandemic, how is this affecting you? And I know it's affecting a lot of athletes because, again, you're used to structure, you're used to practice, you're used to having to be somewhere, and you got a lot of free time right now.
Yeah.
And you're not used to having this free time. Can you tell me what you're going through right now? Is it, and some of your friends that like how are they dealing with not playing and not knowing what's going to happen next month, 3 months from now, or next season?
Right. I'm a very goal-centric person. So I like to set goals for myself that I want to achieve and I know I can achieve if I put in the right work. So I'm treating this pandemic and loss of season as a year-long training camp. So I'm treating this as I have a year to get in the best shape I can possibly be in for when August comes and I can play. So you and I are training 2 or 3 times a week. I'm doing my own thing. I'm running almost every day, playing soccer with my buddies. I'm treating this as time to get in the best shape I can possibly be so I can work on that goal of making an AUS team for the next season.
That's amazing. And have you been talking to a lot of your teammates, and are they kind of in that same mindset, or are they sort of like, we're getting a break for a bit?
Yeah, it's kind of half and half. A lot of the kids are taking it kind of like, we can relax now. We never had this kind of time off. But actually in Halifax, they're pretty much back to normal. Like there's been like 1 COVID case in the last kind of 10 days. So like my team, everybody who lives in Halifax is training 4 or 5 days a week. So they're pretty much back to training camp. So they're training 4 or 5 days a week and they're going hard down there. So I'm trying to do my part to stay up with the pace.
That's great, because I know too, even with technology and everything like that, it's easy to keep in touch with them and sort of see what they're up to, and I motivate each other. So that's great to hear they're still staying pretty active.
Oh yeah.
So I'm going to wrap it up in a minute here, but I want to, what's the future look like for you? What would you like to take soccer? Like, and what do you think is going to come? What's your afterlife look like?
It's a good question. Right now with soccer, I am in the mindset where take it as far as you can and don't let anybody stop you. So with the new kind of CPL being introduced to Canada and there being a Halifax kind of feeder team that kind of drafts from the AUS, definitely look into that as an opportunity. That would be kind of option A for me for sure. But I'm also I'm in a commerce degree right now. So if that does not pan out, and nobody really knows what's going to happen with COVID and everything like that, I'd probably go and do a master's, because when I graduate with the pandemic, I'm still going to have 2 more years of eligibility. So I could stay at Dal or go to a different school and keep playing soccer for another 2 years while I do my master's. And then eventually, my dream job would be to connect business and sport, because I have a true passion for sport. See, I could talk about sport all day, but I also have a true passion drive for business. Being surrounded by my dad, who works in NHL, my mom, who works at Deloitte. I've been surrounded by business my whole life. And I truly have a passion and some ideas that I think could help a lot of business and sport organizations.
I totally see that. I also see you coaching. I could see you coaching in a second. Young
maybe
kids.
Daryl, don't pick it. Might be one of his business ideas, so you don't want to leak it.
You know I'm coming back to you, but
Yeah.
I could see you coaching kids in a second. You got skills. You're fun. You've worked through your dad's camps. I remember seeing you working at your dad's camps, which were a lot of fun.
Yep.
I can totally see you doing that. Listen, it's been a pleasure having you on. I don't know if you have another question, T, but I want to wrap up. Last thing, again, if you were, this is put you on the spot. If you were in charge of soccer in Canada and you were the guy running, because you got that business mind, what would be some of the things you would change, or what would you keep the same? Like, would you change how our youth systems run? Or would you?
I would try and do my best to emulate what they're doing in Europe, because North America is so far behind what they're doing in Europe, especially in a soccer sense. Like, as an example, they don't play games until they're 13 years old. Until they're 13, it's all practice, working on dribbling, working on shooting, working on passing, working on your basic fundamental skills.
Yeah, developing.
And making sure the kids have fun while they're doing it. And then once you have those necessary skills, then you start working about your tactics. Like you and my dad always say it, the brilliant basics. You got to master the basics. In Europe, they're mastering the basics at 13 years old. You can teach kids how to set up a free kick, how to keep possession, how to do this. But you don't want to spend that time teaching kids how to pass a ball at the age of 13.
Right.
So if I was in charge, I would try and follow that same kind of mindset as they are in Europe and say, truly focus on the basics of sport and the game. And it doesn't mean no games at all. Like, it doesn't mean having like exhibition games or having games within the squad or having games against other teams, but there is no league until they're 13.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's coming from someone who's played a bunch of games. You would cut down the number of games.
Especially at a young age.
Right. It's really good advice. I like that suggestion.
Yeah.
So, T, what do you think?
I just think, hopefully a lot of sport organizations and not just soccer are listening and saying, we need to actually have conversations with the athletes who are in the system and hear from them what's working, what's not working, what do they like, what don't they like, and really engage everyone, because at the end of the day, the kids are the stakeholders.
Yeah.
We're doing all of this stuff so that you guys can build lifelong skills, enjoy the game, and then eventually, hopefully, for those who do want to get to a pro level, they do have the opportunity. So I hope a lot of our listeners are tuning into this and going to start picking more of, the actual athletes' brains around this.
100%. And there's a lot of good takeaways from Alex today. I really like in particular, and it's come from, you're still a kid to me. Sorry, Alex, but have fun, man. Like, it's not an adult saying it. It's someone who's playing at a high level, who's like, you see it. There's so many guys that are burnt out.
There's nothing better than having fun and doing what you love to do.
Yeah, exactly. So, Alex, thanks for being on the show today, buddy. You were
My
awesome.
pleasure. Thanks for having me.
T, you were great as usual. And everyone, on that note, okay, just go play. Tune in if you like this podcast, please share it with your friends. Press subscribe. We want you guys to get something out of this. This is why we put this podcast together, so everybody there's a takeaway for everyone, and we just keep focusing on quality sports experiences for kids. Okay, thank you guys. Just go play.